Hi, my name is Renee Robyn, and I'm the Optics Product Manager, and today I'm going to walk you through an introduction to particle illusion. Here we are in Photoshop, and as usual, we are going to duplicate our layer and convert it to a smart object. If you are working in the standalone or in Lightroom, obviously this step does not apply to you. We're going to go Filter, Boris Effects, Optics. So here we are in Optics, and we are going to go over to the collections here, and I'm going to open up VFX elements. I'm going to scroll down to particle illusion. So particle illusion is a little bit intimidating at first because there are so many things here. There are so many tools, there's so many effects, there's tons of them. And then of course there's a ton of parameters here on the right hand side, and this can get a little bit intimidating. I am going to fully avoid particle masking and particle properties today. This is going to be an introduction course to particle illusion. I'm not going to worry about these two categories today. Here comes some cat tags. Why are you stepping on my keyboard? No! Oh my god, she just stepped on my whole keyboard. That was great. I'm still going to show you a ton of things we can do with PI, but just to keep things simple, we're going to use the time slider, brush strokes, composite, and world transform sliders only. So if you're super new to particle illusion, this is a great place to start. The other thing I like to do is I like to go over here to the left-hand side, and I like to sort them. So we can sort them by, different purposes, different themes. If you're working on a bunch of sci-fi stuff or magical stuff, or you're doing a bunch of cosplay work, you can sort them that way. My favorite way to sort them is by the year though. So emitters 2026 is the most recent one, and there is a beautiful one here called Seeds and Clouds 2. This is one of my favorite emitters. I love to use this one for adding some atmospheric schmutz into my image, which if you followed any of my work before, that's definitely something I really like to do. First things first is I'm literally just leaving this alone, but what we have here at the very top is this time slider. Now, whenever you're working in optics, I always recommend looking at the time slider and just moving this and seeing what it does, because every now and then it looks very cool. I want to make this bigger. So I'm going to scroll down here to my master scale, and I'm going to just make this larger because I know I want to add a little bit of stuff into the environment of the shot, but I don't want it going over everything in my image. From here, I'm going to go to my masking tools here down at the bottom right hand corner. I'm going to grab the depth map ML tool. And here we go. This is already looking pretty good. I'm going to pull this down onto her because I want her to be masked out and I want the background to be nice and foggy. I'm also going to go up here to my top left-hand corner, and there's this little mask blur slider, and I can change the direction of the blur to be an inner blur, a centered blur, or an outer blur. I think I'm going to grab an inner blur for this one, and I'm going to just click and drag this and make these transitions just a little bit softer. So there we go. Now I have this beautiful fog in my image, and I'm going to add a little bit of tint color to this. Now this is tint color. This isn't necessarily we're going to completely change this. Because we're working with a gray sprite, it's a little bit easier to change the tint of this. If you're working with like a bright blue sprite, for example, it's harder to turn it red. It'll turn a little bit more purple. It's a tint, not a full color tool. So let's move this out of the way and just kind of pick which way we want this to go. I think a little bit more pale would be nice, but a little bit warmer is lovely. So let's hit OK. There we go. And then I can go to my layer opacity here, and I can turn down the opacity here if I want to. I can also go and scroll here to composite where it says opacity, and I can adjust the opacity here as well. So there's two different ways to adjust the layer opacity of the effect that you're looking for. So with this, I'm really happy with it. I'm just going to leave this alone as it is. I can go before and after by hitting Alt-A on the keyboard, or just this button here at the very top. So I'm just going to hit apply. So this is looking really nice. It's a very delicate effect. It's nice and subtle. But let's say we want to do stuff that's a little bit more punchy. Let's duplicate the layer, and I turned off the layer visibility of the layer above with the dandelions. So I'm going to right click and convert to a smart object. Filter, Boris Effects, Optics. Apply previous filters and masks. I'm going to say no. I'm going to scroll down to particle illusion. I'm going to go down to emitters 2025.5. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to add some little blurry sparks to this lantern. I think it'll look really nice. I'm just going to click and move this onto here. And as always, I like to see the time slider just to see what's happening with the sprites themselves, to see what's happening with the behavior. I'm going to open up World Transform, and I'm going to make the master scale smaller. I'm also going to open up Composite and turn down the opacity a little bit, because I want this to be just a little bit more subtle. I'm going to grab that time slider and see what I can get out of these. I'm just looking for more dots than like those stripy lines. So I feel like this is looking a little bit nicer. I think it's like blending very pretty into the scene itself. So that's one way that we can use this. That's just using the sprite, adjusting the time slider, and then adjusting the opacity. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going gonna go back down to particle illusion. Now, I do recommend, I don't usually do more than 3 or 4 layers of particle illusion per smart object. Depending on how your system is configured, more than that can really start to slow down the project itself. So I usually recommend doing it in multiple steps. I'm gonna go all 2025.5, and I'm gonna grab this Blurry Sparks 02. Now we have this beautiful tool in here called particle brushstrokes. This is what it looks like when there is none. There's no brushstrokes whatsoever. Then we have particle creation and animation. So particle creation, basically what it is it's you're walking along and you're dropping seeds and all of the plants are growing all at the same time. Particle animation, the plants are growing and dying depending on how far away you are from the start point. What does that look like? And I promise the more you use this, the more this will make sense. So let's grab particle creation. Let's draw this path. There we go. All of the sprites are growing from the same point at the exact same speed. I don't have to redraw this path. I can just click particle creation and select animation and see the same path based on animation. And so now you're seeing a completely different behavior. You can do this with every single tool in particle illusion. Now, full disclosure, some of them do explode. They weren't made with brushstrokes in mind. We made the brushstroke feature many years after particle illusion came into optics, so some of them just don't work. But a lot of them do, and a lot of them do a beautiful job. So let's say we want to do this as animation. Well, I'm going to reset this because I want a different path. So I'm just going to click on the right-hand side here, top right, where it says reset to default. I'm going to change this to animation. And I'm going to click and drag this to come down like so. Now I can go to world transform. I can open this up and I can scale this if I want to. I can make these like beautiful foreground, like let's imagine these are like little fireflies or something like that. Or I could make them a lot smaller in the scene and make them kind of a little bit more interactive with her. But I like the idea of these kind of being these beautiful foreground, fireflies. So let's go something like this. Now let's take this a little bit further. Let's make a new layer, go back to particle illusion, and let's go back to 2025.5. There's a lot of great emitters in this year. Let's take this guy here. I love this one. And again, world transform, we're going to use the master scale and we're going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, well right now it just kind of looks like a stamp over top of our image, which is not what we're looking for. We want this to be something that's a little bit more interactive in the scene. So I'm going to do an easy mask. I'm going to hit this little square here with the plus in the middle on the bottom right hand corner of the scene of this screen and hit easy mask. I'm going to make my brush size nice and big using the brackets on the keyboard. I'm going to say left mouse click button to get the effect where I want it to be. And I'm going to right mouse click button where I don't. If you're wanting a more in-depth easy mask tutorial, I will link to one in the description below. Now I'm just going to hit enter on the keyboard and there we go. We have this beautiful masked fire ring around our subject. Cool, now what? So this is pretty much where I like to leave having particle illusion, but how do we blend this in to make it look like it belongs a little bit more into the scene? I'm gonna create a new layer and we're gonna use a different tool this time. We're gonna go up to essentials and I'm gonna go to gels. So I'm going to now pick let's pick a nice blue, sky blue. That looks good. Very important slider. We're going to hit the preserve highlight slider, and that is going to make all of this look a lot better. We are going to take an easy mask. Again, I'm just hitting this little square with the plus in it, easy mask, and I'm going to put this onto the background area here. And I don't want it on her or the lantern. And I'm gonna hit enter. Now this is gonna look a little bit strong. I'm just gonna add a little bit more behind her arm. And I'm gonna reduce the opacity of the layer just a little bit, or I can also adjust the exposure compensation. So this is looking nice. It's adding this nice little bit of separation. Now I don't want this to go over top of my particle elements. So I'm gonna click and drag this layer down to underneath my particle illusion layers. So now I can double click on the top here, and now my particle illusion elements are no longer being affected by the blue. I'm gonna create a new layer. We're gonna go over to gels, deep orange, why not? This is very strong. We're gonna hit preserve highlight slider. I'm gonna drag that all the way to the top. We're also going to adjust the exposure compensation. Now I want to just basically copy this effect over. So I'm going to click and drag this mask from our original gels layer and pull this up to the top. Now this mask I want to be inverted. So I'm gonna hit Control I or Command I on your keyboard. And there we have the effect here. I'm gonna hit the exposure compensation slider and then reduce the opacity of the layer itself to make it look a little bit more believable in the scene. If I'm looking at this and I'm feeling like, well, some of this color I really would like to be affecting this fire ring here, that's not a problem. We just double click on this. I'm gonna grab the eraser tool up at the very top and I will just remove these marks here. And then I'm going to go back and add these colors here. So remember, we inverted the mask, so we're gonna have to use red to tell the easy mask where we want it to go. So I'm gonna hit enter now, and there we go. We have this beautiful tint over top of our image. And so this is another way that I like to really use particle illusion in my artwork going forward. So I'm just gonna hit apply. Actually, before I do that, the one thing that's very important is to name your layers, because I'm sure if you're a Photoshop user, you probably have missed naming your layers once or twice. So let's turn this one on and off. And I'm gonna write down in here, this is called lantern. The one next to this, above it, I'm gonna call fireflies. And then the one above it, I'm gonna call fire ring, because we have 3 different types of particle illusion. So sometimes it can be hard to keep track of everything. Then I can call this warm, and I can call this cool. Now I'm gonna hit apply. So this is another really great way to use particle illusion. There's one more way that I like to use it a lot, and it's a lot more friendly for a composite artist who is using a lot of elements in an image, and there's a lot of pieces and a lot of moving parts. So I'm going to show you one more way to do this, and we're going to use the exact same elements in this scene. I'm going to duplicate my layer, and I'm going to convert this to a smart object. I'm going to go Filter, Boris Effects, Optics. It's going to say, do you want to apply the previous filters and masks? I'm going to say yes. What am I talking about? Sometimes what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of custom blur to the sprites themselves, especially if I'm shooting something that's outside on location. You know, these sprite elements can be sharper than my image itself. And so sometimes, especially if you're printing big, this can add to a little bit of disbelievability in the image itself. What I like to do, I'm gonna hit F on the keyboard to go full frame, and I'm gonna turn off the gels layer because I'm only worried about the sprite elements in this case. I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna go to filters, I'm gonna go to color, and then I'm gonna go to color, and I'm gonna select black. Now I click and drag the black color layer underneath my PI complete layers. So when I double click up here, everything is already masked and placed exactly where I want it to be. So I can just hit apply. I'm not gonna touch anything else. Everything I already know, I've placed it with my subject in the scene. So if I turn this on and off, I can still see everything. And I'm just gonna hit apply. There we go. Now I'm gonna put this onto a screen blending mode. So I have normal, I'm gonna knock this down to screen, and there we have our subject. Now we're working with a smart object, so I'm going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And let's say I want to do about a 1.5 pixel blur. It's probably going to be enough. I'm going to hit OK. And so now I have all of my particle illusion layers, but they are on their own layer themselves, right? So I have all 3 in one. You could do them independently on each one. I like to make sure that I'm doing this in optics with my image visible so that I can get the scale and the positioning as close as what I really want it to be, especially if I can use the easy mask and I don't have to worry about trying to mask it again once I'm back into Photoshop. So this is the screen blend mode option. This is doing the color correction and everything all in optics all together, and then this is just doing a very simple particle illusion atmospheric element tool to it. So that's an introduction to particle illusion. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or you'd like to see a more detailed tutorial for particle illusion, please let me know in the comments.